Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Smiths Falls Equity for All Committee for Thursday, August 11th, 2025. On August 11th, 2025, we acknowledge that the sacred land in which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and has rich and indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. I'll call the meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. I look for approval of the agenda. Moved by
today.
Oh, sorry?
Today's the 14th.
Oh,
That's the only change. That's the only adjustment.
Thank you, Peter. I've just been reading what's in front of me here. The 14th, yes. A motion for approval of the agenda, moved by Mitra, second by Linda. All in favor? Thank you. Adoption of minutes. We have minutes for our July 10th meeting. Moved by Ellie, second by Katie. Is that okay?
I wasn't here.
Oh, you weren't here, Peter? All in favor? Thank you. Just want to give a moment to introduce our newest member of the committee, Louis Kolak. Kluk. Louis, welcome, and maybe take a moment to introduce yourself and maybe why you have an interest in being part of this committee.
Thank you all very much. Mostly just interested in trying to make this town as best I can. It's very nice to work with you all, and I look forward to the work we're going to be doing together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to have you on board. Ask for disclosure of monetary interest. Seeing none. We're fortunate to have a couple of delegations today. Our first is Annalisa Christensen, Manager of Licensing, Policy and Special Operations, Municipal Compliance in the City of London. Welcome, Annalisa. And Wade Jeffrey, Manager of Community Compliance and Animal Services, Municipal Compliance, Housing and Community Growth, City of London, here to talk about a recent development in London regarding a renovation bylaw. So the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to try and share my screen with you folks, if I can. Where are we here? There we go. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh, let me try this again. I'm used to Teams. I'm not used to Zoom. There we go. There, did that do it?
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Yes, thank you.
It's taking a moment to connect by the sounds of it. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Annalisa Christensen. I'm the Manager of Licensing, Policy and Special Operations here with the City of London. Just a little FYI, I have only been in this role since towards the end of May of this year. So this rental unit repair license bylaw, all the background study information was done prior to my arrival in this role, but I'm fortunate enough to have a really good relationship with the manager who was previously in this role and was able to provide me with this little presentation that she did for the London Property Management Association, just concerning the rental unit repair bylaw license requirements. So just a bit of history. In January of last year, we received the initial ask from council. So we then began to move into action, doing our high-level research, municipal scans, speaking with organizations, and trying to find local data just through our own tenant support agencies, our property management associations, that sort of thing. And then come July 2024, we ended up taking it to a public participation meeting. And then by September, we had a resolution and our bylaw was passed. So basically you are required to obtain a license is within 7 days of your N13 having been issued. And the purpose of this obviously is to stop the bad faith renovation evictions and provide tenants time to understand their rights and responsibilities, and obviously find somewhere else to locate for the time that they're going to be out of the unit. And each N13 eviction requires a rental repair license, and the license is $600 per unit. And then the licenses expire after 6 months, and then you are required to obtain another license, basically a renewal process, if the work is not yet done within that 6 months. So again, this is all in our bylaw. Documents needed for the application, obviously the address and unit number, the copy of the N13, affidavit, who issued the N13, and if the tenant info package was given. So as part of one of the most significant items that we did do in the creation of this bylaw was our tenant outreach, and being sure to include those organizations like Acorn and Lifespin and other tenant support agencies to make sure that people were educated as to their rights and how to navigate what happens when you have an N13 issued. So again, copy of the tenancy agreement is required, report from a qualified professional, and the copy of the building permit. So that report from a qualified professional is just verifying that in fact the work that the landlord is looking to complete does require a building permit and requires the vacancy of the unit, and obviously the N13 would be required. So again, 7 days of issuing an N13, we expect your repair license application. So here's some of the meanings behind some of the information in our bylaw. So an N13 notice shall be accompanied by a report prepared by a person who is prescribed qualifications and states that the repairs or renovations are so extensive they will require vacant possession of the rental unit, which is basically what I had just indicated. And then again, continuing to work with Ontario Architects Association and Professional Engineers Association to determine what that will say and how it will be said. So that's all in our bylaw now. Again, I go back to, this is predating the actual implementation of our bylaw. So we have that all straightened out in our bylaw now. And then the tenant information package is designed to inform tenants of their rights. So basically, again, I go back to, we spent a lot of time on this, ensuring that folks were made aware of what their rights were, the right of first refusal, all of that sort of information. And then making sure that the tenant knows that just because they say yes, they should still, or they must still inform the landlord in writing the ability to reach out to them any change of address while they're out of the unit, and their intent to return to the unit should they wish to. And again, we have the tenant information package available on our website, along with a lot of information there concerning not only tenants' rights, but the responsibilities of the landlord as well. So the notice of the application is required, or sorry, notice of application and license is required to be posted on site. The license manager may impose conditions on both tenant and landlord. And there is an exemption process where a building permit is not required. So if you don't require a building permit, we're not going to require a repair license. And then again, the Residential Tenancies Act still rules. It overrides anything. And then staff to report back next year regarding data. Well, this brings me to a really interesting piece. Our bylaw came into effect in March 2025. Since that time, we have had no licenses issued. We have not received notice of any N13s having been issued. Up until just this past week, we have received one complaint. And that's another thing I should note, that our bylaw is complaint-based. Until somebody comes forward that they've been issued an N13, we are unaware. So when we receive, in this case, we received a complaint from a tenant that they are being asked to move because the landlord's going to be doing some renovations. No N13 has been issued. No building permit has been applied for. And to top it off, the owner of the property is an absentee landlord and does not have a residential rental unit license in place for this particular unit. So that being said, I'm going to turn things over to my partner, Wade, and he can talk a little bit about our enforcement piece. And once he's done, of course, if you have any questions, we'll take those. But Wade, go ahead.
Great, thank you, Lisa, thank you very much, everybody, for having Lisa and I here today to speak about our residential rental unit license process and enforcement practices. I don't have much to add, to be truthfully honest here. Lisa did a great job of giving all the information. I'll just add a couple pieces in terms of what our enforcement process and our enforcement measures are when it comes to this. As Lisa mentioned, it's very new, March of this year. So there isn't a lot of data or stats to go off of. We are, collecting it as it comes in. It's very slow at this point. Lisa mentioned we have not received one where there's an N13 issued. So we're eagerly awaiting that. Hopefully it does not come, but if it does, we have our balances, our protocols in place to follow through on that. When this was all being developed and before it was implemented, we looked at how we were going to address the enforcement side of things, and in terms of laying fines or penalties or charges when we do have one of these situations arise. So we looked at, we did municipal scans. We talked to our partners in Toronto and Hamilton who have active bylaws in place for this. We looked at other administrative monetary penalty processes and fines that we have established already in our AMPS bylaw, and we wanted to come up with an appropriate amount or penalty fine amount to attach to this particular bylaw. So in the end, I'll direct you to our city website, because I'm having issues actually connecting to it right now. But there is if you're in our search tab there on the main screen, if you were just to type in AMPS or AMP bylaw, it'll take you to the AMP bylaw, all the regulations for each schedule within that. And under the business license bylaw is where you will find our short form wording for administrative monetary penalties related to residential rental unit licensing. They range starting at $1,000 in terms of a penalty, and it goes all the way up to $5,000. We have the ability. I'm not sure if your municipality is working with AMPS yet. I apologize if I should have known that ahead of time, but I don't. If you're working with AMPS, it's another form of compliance or attempt to get compliance with a property owner that is not complying with bylaw regulations. It frees up the courts, and it's administratively done through hearings. But what happens is we have the ability to lay an AMP, and we can subsequently double that AMP if there is still non-compliance after that first initial AMP is laid. We will go through that initial process of an AMP and then double AMP. We do have the ability to go to a Part 3 information and go before the courts if there's continued non-compliance with getting this license obtained by the property owner. So we will, again, we'll wait on the complaint to come in. As Lisa mentioned, it's complaint-based. We'll have a municipal law enforcement officer investigate that complaint. They will talk to the appropriate people, whether it be the tenant, the property owner, the property management company, contractors that may be involved, because we will reach out and speak to our building department to find out if there's been a building permit issued. So we are collaborative with our internal and external agencies to ensure we have all our pieces covered during the investigation. We will send out a notice to the property owner indicating that they are not complying or complying with the regulations within the business license bylaw, and there will be an appropriate compliance date for them to get the appropriate documentation submitted to the city. So again, fines can range anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. We do have the opportunity to go in front of the courts through a Part 3. And again, we unfortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at this, we do not have any significant data to go off at this time. So I'm happy to answer any enforcement related questions, or if there's any administrative or policy questions, Lisa can help with. We're here to answer those.
Well, thank you very much. I'll turn to the committee for questions. Peter.
Thanks very much for doing this for us. We appreciate it. I have a couple of questions. The $600 fee, is that intended to just cover the city's costs, or how was that arrived at? For the license fee or the application fee or whatever that was?
Yeah, it's basically to cover the city's costs in terms of, there's going, again, until we walk through exactly what is going to happen when we do get a complaint in. Yes, it's going to cover the cost of enforcement, cover the cost of administration. Basically, from what I have been advised, they did do sort of a scan of other municipalities in the area and what they were charging, and $600 seemed to be a reasonable amount.
Thanks. I have a couple more, if I may. I'm assuming that the Landlord Tenant Board collects data on how many N13s they received. Are they able to share, or do they share data on by local municipality? They probably don't.
I was just going to say, it's funny you should ask that. I had just prior to this meeting at around 8:30 had asked one of my team to see if they could find some information from the province on the number of N13s that had been issued to London within, basically in 2025. And the only information he could come up with was provided to the province by Acorn, and it had indicated that from 2017 to 2023, London had been issued 153 N13s. From 2023 to today, there's no information. So you're right. It's difficult to come across that information and find that information from the province.
My final question, you referred to municipal law enforcement officer. Is that police, or is that bylaw, or is that something else?
That's bylaw enforcement. That's Wade's team.
Okay, that's the term. Okay, thanks very much.
No problem.
Additional questions? I guess the one a bit shocking statement, I guess, is that there's been no one's requested a license yet to do a renovation, and the fact that I wonder, the fact that you need if N13 is issued, you have to apply for it, makes me wonder if people are going underground. They're not applying for an N13. They're not applying for municipal licensing. And I guess that's more of an enforcement issue. Because prior, and maybe this will be more when Linda speaks on how common and how prevalent this is, but I just wondered if this whole process, the unfortunate side effect of it is it's pushed them underground and doing renovations and dealing with tenants without going through a legal process.
It's interesting that sorry, go ahead, Wade.
Yeah, sorry, just from an enforcement end, sorry, Lisa, I'll let you add to this. You're 100% right on that. This may happen, and that's something that we recognized when we were conducting the review and implementation of this bylaw. With, I think, more proactive enforcement, and I don't mean us going door to door knocking, but having ears to the ground when we're out there doing other enforcement under licensing, whether it be residential rental unit licensing, or talking to building inspectors or fire inspectors when they're in buildings to get a sense of what is out there. We are, again, as mentioned, complaint driven in this particular bylaw and licensing process. So we do encourage the public and tenants to come forward with that information. I know there's some hesitation sometimes from tenants. They're nervous about the repercussion from a potential landlord being aggressive with them or threatening. So we do recognize those challenges and hurdles as well. So really, it's it's I think first and foremost, it's getting that public awareness out, so that information, that public campaigning to know that the City of London does have a licensing process for this, and that we do support fair practice and process on this, this entire renovation. We don't want tenants to be left out in the dark. We're here to support them, but we can only do that when we are aware of the situation. So again, working with our external and internal partners collaboratively on this, we're hoping that that will help streamline our enforcement end of things. And just to quickly add with the licensing piece, because I know Lisa did come into this fairly late in her new position. We did do municipal scanning as well for licensing fees, and we actually sit on a forum with other municipalities that are going through this process now. Ottawa, Mississauga, Toronto, Hamilton already have it in place, like I had mentioned. So we do sit on a forum every so often. I think it's bi-monthly now, to talk about all the challenges and both, I shouldn't say just challenges, pros and cons to this. We talk about both of them. And when it comes to the licensing fee, I believe Toronto and Hamilton, because the demographic wise and population wise, they're very, I mean, they're larger than London, but we wanted to kind of take pieces from their regulations and licensing and enforcement to see if we could sort of streamline ours very similar. Their licensing fee, I believe in Toronto is 700 a unit and Hamilton is 715 a unit. And if we're 600 a unit, we're fairly close. So we definitely take that municipal scan and try to be very comparable with other municipalities around the region. I'll let Lisa add to that.
I was just going to add, to mention that perhaps that is one of the positives of coming forward with this particular bylaw, is the fact that it may give those landlords that had capitalized initially several years ago on the ability to be able to evict tenants, to do renovations and then garner a higher rent as a result. I think perhaps putting this bylaw in place has now become a deterrent. So there's taking a positive spin on this. Again, until we have actual numbers coming forward, it's hard to say exactly where we're going to land on that. But like I said, to me, it seems like that perhaps this has ended up with a positive result.
I'm just going to follow up with the question. What led council to actually pursue the development of the bylaw and pass a bylaw? I have to assume the renovictions were an issue prior to all this starting, which was shocking. There's been no applications since March, when I presume there had been a number of issues prior to this whole thing being implemented.
We had, and Wade, I can't remember the address, but there was an apartment building that did go forward with N13s, and that's exactly what they were doing. They were evicting everybody, going to go in and do repairs. And to this day, there's still tenants out there wondering, where am I going to live? What's going to happen? I can't remember the number. I can't remember the address, and I can't remember the number of displaced tenants that we did have. And then as a result, that's where this bylaw came forward. And that is also why it was so important for us to do some really significant front end public awareness, make sure that tenants know their rights. So again, perhaps that has become a deterrent, that now that people are more informed, they're more able to say, hey, wait a second, I'm entitled to some time here. You're required to do this and do that. So again, it's making the public more informed. But yeah, it was as a result of a significant renovation in an apartment building that brought this forward.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. I guess obviously that's the reason why we are looking at this because of what we've experienced in our own community. Any further questions for Wade and Lisa? Well, thanks so much for being here today. We'll look forward to sort of following your progress, and we'll probably check in, maybe just have Carrie follow up in another 6 months or so just to see if anything's changed. You're welcome to stay if you want to hear Linda's presentation. If not, you're certainly free to move on with your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Next up, I think everybody here probably is familiar with Linda Tranter from the legal clinic in Perth. Linda is a fierce advocate for tenants. My own personal experience in people who've come to me with issues, and I refer them to Linda, and I would say the vast majority of the time, Linda's able to make a difference and keep people housed where they should be. So welcome, Linda. Great to have you here today. And we continue to look to your guidance and for you to share your experience and wisdom, help us understand the local landscape and help guide us to the most appropriate direction.
Thank you so much. I love it when they say I'm fierce, but just hardworking. And I have a number of colleagues here who are just as hardworking and doing great work as well. So my name is Linda Tranter. For those, I certainly know some of you. I'm a lawyer at our local community legal clinic in Perth, Brockville, and we also serve part of Frontenac and Lennox and Addington. I'm in the Perth office. I've been here for 25 years. So if I look tired, that's why. Just kidding. But I have to say it's a real pleasure and an honor to be invited here today. And frankly, it was a great opportunity for me to dig a bit deeper into the possibility of these bylaws. Smiths Falls has been a real leader in our area and perhaps in Eastern Ontario and throughout Ontario in terms of looking for solutions to our poverty and homelessness crisis, working in collaboration with ourselves and other organizations, building affordable housing. I'm actually very honored to be invited to talk to you today. So as a result of this invitation, I've done some research and I provided you with a whole lot of materials, way too many, I'm sure, but perhaps they would be helpful going forward. I'm hoping that you all receive, I've got some feedback, hopefully, and perhaps it's just because the live stream is one of the things, that's fine. Anyway, I provided you with a large package entitled Preventing Homelessness Through a Municipal Anti-Renovation Bylaw. What you're going to see in this package is a number of really just resource documents. Did you all receive a copy of that, Mayor Penko? Yeah. So obviously, it's not something you can read on short notice. It's many pages, but just to give you an overview of what's in that package, a tremendously important report entitled the Ontario Renovation Report from Acorn Canada was released in February 2024, and your organization hopefully has seen this report. It certainly reflects our experiences here in Lanark County. I'll share a quick copy of this document if that's okay. Let me just see if I can do that. Give me a moment. Sorry, bear with me here. All right, obviously I'm not going to walk you through it, but I will give you a bit of an overview of this report. Can you see my screen okay?
It's still small, but I assume it'll probably flip over in a moment.
Okay. All right, well, maybe that's not ideal. If it's not full size, I'm not sure why that would be. I'm just going to stop the screen share then. So a couple of things I've given you is the ACORN report, talking about a real epidemic of renovictions in Ontario. I will talk a little bit about our Lanark County experience in a minute. In there, the second document is an actual is a document from the Ontario Municipal Social Services Association. Also talking about and it's from August 2025, brand new. You'll see that at page 20 and following. There's a little index on the front. Again, it's sort of a summary of the ACORN report and some of the great work that's being done by other municipalities in Ontario, specifically Hamilton, London, and Toronto, who have all recently passed anti-renoviction bylaws. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Each one is a little bit different, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview today of what they've done. But the other things I've done here is give you some basic information about renovictions and the laws surrounding them that exist now, including Community Legal Education Ontario at page 31. This is a pamphlet that we use quite regularly from a sister legal clinic that provides community legal education. It talks about the rules around renovictions. I can easily talk about that. I deal with them every single day. And then at page 35, I've given you a short summary of a Statistics Canada survey of who is being evicted and why. In Canada, it's from April 2024, Stats Canada. It's a fairly small sample. It's not part of their normal, it's, the normal statistics gathering. It was fairly specific at a fairly small sample, but they did find that over half of evictions in Ontario are no-fault evictions. For landlord's own use, sale of a property, or repairs and renovations, over half. So that's huge, and it is fairly consistent with our experience here in Lanark County, which I'll talk about shortly. In addition to that, beginning at page 39, and for the rest of the document, I've given you the London bylaw, the Hamilton bylaw, and the Toronto bylaw. It's not light reading, but it still might be useful if Smith Falls is serious about drafting a similar bylaw, which I entirely support. I think it would be excellent. So before we talk about what these bylaws look like and why they're set up the way they are, I need to talk a little bit about our experience here in Lanark County and Smith Falls in particular. I know you're very familiar with the fact that we have a housing crisis and a housing affordability crisis, and now we have a homelessness crisis in our communities. Smith Falls has been very hard hit, and I believe that is because prior to 2020, rents were very affordable in Smith Falls, and during the pandemic, we saw a real change in our housing market. And we see a lot of outside investors coming in, buying up rental properties cheaply, renovating them, and attempting to rent them out for approximately double the rent. So we've seen rents go from less than $1,000 a month, probably in the last 5 to 7 years. We've seen rents go from less than $1,000 a month for a 1 to 2 bedroom. Some as low as $650, $750 was pretty common not that long ago. And now the average rent, I would say, for a new place in an apartment, 1 or 2 bedrooms, is about $1,800 or more. And the rent for a house, which would be suitable, or a 3-bedroom, would be well over $2,000. Rents are going up to $2,200, $2,500 for a house, regardless of the condition of the house, I would say. Now, occasionally we're still seeing rents at about $1,350, but these are few and far between, and there's a huge number of people competing for any of these units. I'm going to say things that I hope you're already well familiar with, but if we're looking at the actual income of renters, and as I think a lot of you know, folks that have regular jobs in Leonard County typically buy a home. Homes were very affordable until recently. So the majority of people who are renting in our community are seniors, the disabled, low-wage workers, and the young. I looked at, to just give you some context, and I know this is probably more than you need, but the context is if you're on ODSP or you're a single person, you're getting less than $1,400 a month. If you're on Ontario Works, you're getting about $740 a month. This is for everything all inclusive. You cannot find anything in Smith Falls for $740, even if you didn't use any of your money on groceries or other expenses. If you're a couple on OW, you get $1,136 a month. If you're a senior, and you're getting your guaranteed income supplement on top of your old age security and your CPP, you're going to receive about $1,800 a month. So in the last 5 years, we have seen the housing crisis, the housing affordability crisis hit our seniors as well as our disabled and low-income community. Because if you're a senior now, I'm seeing more and more seniors who've worked extremely hard all their lives and are on a basic senior's income no longer afford anything at $1,800 a month for one person. And shockingly, even if you're a full-time worker on minimum wage, like most of the folks are, your take home right now is approximately $2,000 a month if you're working full-time on minimum wage. Which means there's a huge number of people that, if evicted from affordable housing, if they will not be able to find anything at all. So in our office, we have focused on keeping people housed. Mayor Penko and I have often commented, and we will comment again and again, that the only affordable place for you, unless you're in rent geared to income, is the place you're living in now, because the market has changed so dramatically. Okay, to cut to the chase, and I'm sorry for the background, but I think you're all aware of the crisis. We are seeing M13 notices, and these are notices for renovation, demolition, or conversion, most of them being renovations. We're seeing them very regularly in our office. So, and interestingly, M13 notices, those are notices of eviction, do not go to the landlord and tenant board if the landlord can make a deal with the tenant, cash for keys as they like to call it, or convince them that they're going to have to move because of this notice. So whenever we attempt to put together statistics on how often people are moving out for the purpose of renovations, there is no way of gathering statistics on all of the M13 notices that do result in eviction but don't go to the landlord-tenant board. So as mentioned by our friends in London, one of the biggest problems is these uncontested or under the sort of basically M13 notices serve, tenants comply, and they move out. So these are cases that don't go to the landlord and tenant board. And I would say the percentage of cases that don't end up going to the landlord and tenant board is probably quite high. Now, I can say that fortunately, the town of Smith Falls has been doing a great job at listening to local constituents and encouraging folks to exercise their rights under the Residential Tenancies Act and contest notices. But there's still large numbers of people that move out without any legal advice, without going to the landlord and tenant board after receiving that simple renovation notice. If we do go to the landlord and tenant board, and I am going to cut to the chase, I hope soon, if we do go to the landlord and tenant board, I can tell you that in our experience, the majority of these renovation notices will not succeed if contested, particularly if the individual has counsel. That's been our experience. The majority of them are not legitimate notices. They do not require eviction so serious as to require vacant possession and a building permit. But tenants will not know their rights unless they are fortunate enough to get legal advice early before they quit their tenancies. And we are certainly seeing a real trend towards landlords serving notices and offering what they call cash for keys, which is often a month or two of rent. And we're seeing people go from paying $900 a month to suddenly being out on the market paying over $1,800 a month, doubling their rents because of this process. And then what we're seeing is a trend. I'm seeing the next wave. So we saw a whole lot of evictions a couple of years ago. We've been fighting them throughout the pandemic and after. We've been fighting them for 35 years at our office. But we're now seeing the wave of people who moved from a $950 rent into a $1,950 rental, and they're going to be evicted for non-payment of rent because they may not be able to pay that on minimum wage or ODSP or a senior's pension. Absolutely impossible if they're lucky enough to find anything at all. So that's what we're seeing. So yeah, hear stories, lots of information, and we see them every day of people who get behind in their rent. But what I see is people who were already evicted for other reasons, often no fault reasons, who moved into unaffordable housing and now are being evicted because they can't possibly pay their rents. So big problem. So what would a rent eviction bylaw do for us? And I do want to talk about a couple of other things. So one of the things it would do is there are a variety of possibilities with these anti-rent eviction bylaws. There's precedents in Toronto, Hamilton, and London right now that are in force. And there's certainly quite a number of other municipalities looking at these bylaws. What it would do is there's a couple of options. And if I understand that the London example is a complaint-driven bylaw, but there's a couple of other possibilities, and that is to require a landlord who serves an M13 to immediately appeal for a rental renovation license within 7 days. That is done. Now, the London bylaw may do that, but there are. So the Hamilton bylaw is interesting because it requires an actual daily fine for people who do not apply for the required permit. So if the tenants do come to our bylaw enforcement officers and say, my landlord did not comply with the rent eviction bylaw, then there can be daily fines for failure to comply. So there are ways of setting up bylaws, different ways to make them absolutely mandatory. And I'd be happy to be involved if Smith Falls is looking at some of these bylaws, and be very happy to be involved more closely. I'd be happy to be there in person. I'm sorry, I'm not in person today. I'd be happy to look at a variety of options with you. And the other thing I'll say, so the interesting thing about these bylaws, what do they all have in common? They require any landlord who is giving who is going to evict tenants for the purposes of renovations to, first of all, get a license. Secondly, report all of the tenants involved. Thirdly, generally speaking, post the tenants' rights in the building and serve them on all the tenants. Would require two things. They would require a building permit, and therefore, and one of the things the town of Smith Falls has been doing very well in the last couple of years is not issuing building permits if building permits are not required. So one of the problems we've seen, I can talk about a couple of examples recently, is that landlords will apply to evict tenants for renovations, and essentially they're just redecorating. They're putting in what one of my colleagues calls flipper flooring, which is you put in some nice vinyl flooring and you paint the walls and possibly do some upgrades to the kitchen and bathroom. And none of these things would normally require a building permit. So by law, a tenant cannot be removed from a rental unit without the landlord engaging in repairs or undertaking repairs that are so extensive as to require vacant possession and so extensive as to require a building permit. And so some municipalities have been issuing building permits where they are not required by law. And I'm glad to say that Smith Falls has been refusing building permits where they are not required by law. And I encourage staff to keep doing that. So in order to evict the tenants, they would have to show a building permit is required and obtained. And under these new rent evicting bylaws, an engineer or a similar professional would have to provide a certified declaration that vacant possession is required for this job. So that's a pretty high standard. Then some of the Toronto and Hamilton requires that the landlord actually provide temporary accommodation to the tenants, all of the tenants, and or a top up in the rent during the vacancy period. So that would mean if I receive an M13 saying I need to move out for major repairs and renovations, my landlord would either have to put me in a similar size unit at the same rent or provide me a top up. So if my rent is $900 and I'm paying $1,900, the landlord would pay the extra $1,000 every month to ensure that I can be housed in the interim. And then finally, these anti-rent eviction bylaws require follow-up to ensure that the tenants are reinstated into their housing. And that is their right under the law. But my experience as a lawyer in our community is that most tenants do not know that they have a right to return under the law right now. And they do have a right to return to their same unit at the same rent, regardless of how extensive the renovations have been. Fantastic provision of the Residential Tenancies Act, unfortunately not well known. So I do certainly support an anti-rent eviction bylaw in our communities. Smith Falls has been a leader. Encourage you to look very seriously at it. Absolutely, the Municipal Act allows for these sorts of bylaws. The Municipal Act also, we do see other bylaws being passed. Just to throw a couple other things out there, we're seeing a new kind of bylaw called the Rental Replacement Bylaw, or rental housing protection bylaw that actually protects the tenant's right to move back in if there has been a redevelopment of a site. So a conversion to a different layout, a demolition and a redevelopment. If there were 5 units and now there are 20, those 5 tenants, the landlord would require a license for redevelopment, and those 5 tenants would go into the new building at the same rents. So there's some very interesting bylaws. So Toronto and Hamilton both have a rental replacement bylaw intended to protect the housing stock where there's a demolition and a redevelopment to new rental housing. Also a great idea. And the other thing we're seeing, and I believe London has one, we could ask a little more about that, is a rental licensing bylaws. So that in order to rent either a building of a certain size or another, a landlord would require a rental license. I don't want to get too much into these. They're a mixed bag. Some of these bylaws, such as the one in North Bay, have not been very successful because it only covers small buildings, less than 6 units, and actually people are finding it's a disincentive to landlords to rent out smaller buildings. But I don't want to get into that one, but it is an option. I want to talk about a couple of case studies. I know I'm going fairly fast here, but a couple of case studies in Smith Falls. Mayor Panko is familiar with both of these, and the town of Smith Falls and ourselves collaborated to protect tenants. But before I go to that, I'm going to tell you about a situation in Gananoque that I was involved in. There were 2 buildings in Gananoque side by side. Both of them had about 20 units. A developer came in, not really a developer, The company in question was a real estate investment company that was in the business of buying up undervalued properties, renovating them, evicting everyone, and re-renting at higher rates, and then refinancing. We've watched this company and throughout Ontario. I actually got quite interested and followed them around and not literally, but contacted neighboring legal clinics about the pattern of behavior. So in Gananoque, and I know that's not Leonard County, this company came in and bought 2 buildings. Building number 1, they immediately served everybody there. They were mostly seniors, disabled, and low-income people. Rents were less than $900 a month. They were small 1-bedroom units for the most part. They gave everyone an N13 notice that they were doing renovations. And everyone in that building, except for 3 units, moved out. Unfortunately, they did not get to us. Building number 2 got their N13 notices a little bit later. Now, I can tell you that the landlord actually, in building number 1, after everybody but the 3 tenants moved out, the other 3 tenants did move out, but they moved back in at the same rent because they managed to get educated about their rights, and they were able to move back in with some help from us and some other legal services. The second building, they got N13 saying the landlord was going to renovate. They watched the first building and saw what the landlord did. And basically what the landlord did is switch up the flooring, improve the kitchens, paint everything, and re-rent for double the price, literally double the price. Fortunately, somebody from the second building got to us, and we organized meetings with all of the tenants, multiple meetings, and every tenant stayed. Over the course of about a year, the landlord did ultimately take these M13s, apply to the landlord and tenant board, and we continued to fight. They did not have building permits in order. It was clear to us that they did not qualify for rent evictions. And ultimately, at the landlord and tenant board on the very day of the hearing, they withdrew all the applications a year later, and they would not have succeeded. If there had been a rent eviction bylaw in place, it is entirely likely that all 40 units would have been saved. Because the investment landlord, who was in the business of flipping properties, hopefully someone would have got to the town, the municipality, and the requirements of having building permits and an engineer's report and assurances that the tenants could return, and possibly Toronto actually also requires landlords to provide moving expenses as well as the rent top up. All of these things would have prevented that from happening. Two situations in Smiths Falls. So this was a mixed victory. The tenants who did not resist were evicted. The tenants who did defend themselves were not evicted, and they live there today. Ultimately, the property was sold by this investment company because the model of flipping it and refinancing didn't work. 2 situations locally. We've had, in the last couple of years, we had a landlord buy up a building. I don't think this is confidential information, at 11 River Street. You'll be familiar with the property. I believe it's a small apartment building with about 20 units. And we had a landlord buy up the building and immediately serve M13 renovation notices on all the tenants. Fortunately, some of those tenants had already used our service, got to us. And fortunately, I was also able to collaborate with the town of Smiths Falls and find out that there were no building permits issued and that none of the proposed repairs would have met the standard for a building permit. We met with all of the tenants repeatedly, and all of those tenants decided to stay, with the exception of perhaps 1 or 2 who moved out for other reasons. There has been extensive litigation related to that building. The landlord did take these M13s and apply to the landlord and tenant board, and every single one of these cases has been rejected by the board. Town of Smiths Falls did a great thing. What you guys did, first of all, provide us with information, but secondly, when this landlord applied for a building permit after they lost the first case, your building department looked at the application and said, you don't require a building permit, you don't qualify for a building permit. These are repairs that don't require eviction or a building permit, and refused it. And as a result, we won all of the other cases. So good on you. The second situation was a building and a series of tenants in 5 buildings, a total on 3 streets, and you'll be familiar with this one, Mayor Panko, because we collaborated on this one as well in Smiths Falls. He bought up 5 small rental properties. The gentleman was from Ottawa, served N13s on every single tenant. Town of Smiths Falls wrote a letter telling the new landlord who just bought the properties that this was unacceptable, that they were not following the rules, that they didn't have building permits, etc. in place. We met with all the tenants together with Mayor Panko, provided them all with legal advice. Everyone stayed. One of those cases was subsequently filed with the landlord and tenant board. And again, on the very day of the hearing, we defended. The application was withdrawn for lack of a building permit and lack of proof that vacant possession was required. It actually did go to the landlord tenant board and we won. Basically, they had no evidence. But again, in this case, if a rental eviction permit had been required, then this would have kept this issue on the town's radar. If the investing landlord or the new landlord had not applied for building permits or had an engineer's report saying that the repairs were necessary and required vacant possession, that would have stopped it as well. And that would have been excellent. And it may be that the matter never would have gone to the landlord tenant board. We're hopeful that in this situation, that individual may have been fined for his behavior. Anyway, I've talked a great deal. I'm going to stop there. I know it's a ton of information, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Just one thing to emphasize again, though. Right now, the law is that if a landlord gives you a notice for eviction for renovation purposes, you do have a right to return to the renovated premises at the very same rent. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is landlords are serving these notices, getting the tenants out, and then surreptitiously under the radar, renting it out at double the rent to someone else, and the landlord and tenant board will not intervene. So they will impose a fine on landlords. I'm handling quite a lot of these after the fact situations, but the fine is approximately 1 year's rent at the old rental rate. If that were $900 times 12 months, it sounds like a lot, but if the rents went up to $1,900, then the landlord is still making a windfall, and it's just a cost of doing business to fly under the radar, evict the tenants, and then for the rest of the life of that building, you're getting over $1,000 a month extra in rent every month. So it's a small price to pay, and we are seeing a lot of these, what I call fraudulent evictions. And the repercussions that the landlord tenant board, although we take these cases forward, they're not severe enough to prevent this from being a cost of doing business. So, yeah, I'll stop there.
Well, thanks so much, Linda. And your insight and experience is invaluable. And I know in working with you over the last number of years, when you get on a case, you make the difference. And as you mentioned earlier, the most affordable home someone can have is the one they're in now. And the impact of losing their home in a bad faith eviction not only just doubles their rent, it destroys their self-esteem, it impacts their ability to eat healthy. The overall impact is so devastating. And then you said if they go somewhere else for a higher rent, they can't afford it, they eventually lose that unit, they're homeless, they're facing difficulty again. And also, doesn't look good on the record when they're looking for a new place either if they've been evicted for non-payment of rent. So it makes it hard
Yeah.
for them to find a new place.
So we're seeing a cycle of homelessness. We're seeing that now. So initially, tenants were living in affordable housing. Some of the times they're being evicted for no fault of their own through these processes, whether it be renovations. Landlord's own use is a huge problem. People saying they're moving in and they're not moving in. That's happening. It's a huge problem in our communities. The reason it's not as big a problem in bigger communities is because if a corporation owns a building, they cannot give a notice for landlord's own use because a corporation doesn't have a home. But we see a lot of individually owned properties. One more piece of information, and that is I also work quite closely with crisis workers at Lanark County Mental Health and Lanark Leeds and Grenville Addictions and Mental Health. And some of these crisis workers are actually dealing with people who come to the hospitals, Smiths Falls and Perth hospitals, suicidal. And I can tell you that anecdotally from one of the crisis workers who is working in our local hospitals, Carleton Place as well, a huge majority of those people who arrive at the hospital suicidal are facing a possible eviction. He's telling me that's a huge, huge factor. So I hate to say that, but this is a reality in our community right now.
Despair leads to some really difficult situations.
Oh.
And I know you mentioned sometimes the corporate landlord will also issue an N12, as we've seen before, and because people, they don't know any better, they have moved out as well. But and we know that in many cases these are predatory out of town landlords who are really working, trying to I guess take advantage of some of our most vulnerable citizens, those who, as I said, live with disabilities, living in very low income, seniors, and once they're out, there's little hope to find something that they're going to be able to afford in the future. So turning to the committee, I'm sure there's some questions after Linda's very informative presentation. Or she covered everything.
She did.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Linda, so much. And I really appreciate your offer to help here and to, if we decide we're going to try to move forward and draft a anti-rent bylaw for Smiths Falls, it'll start on this committee and then we'll go to the committee of the whole and council, hopefully in the near future. We look to your guidance and support to try and get this done right.
Yeah, and I'd certainly volunteer to sit on a working group or something like that if that would be helpful. This would be amazing. Excellent leadership on your part, Thomas Smiths Falls. Oops, I think I've lost you.
We still see you, but.
Oh, okay, something weird going on. Okay, don't worry about it. The joys of Zoom. Oh, you're back. Okay. All right.
Thanks for all you do
All
for
right.
us.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, take care, Linda.
Excellent. Keep doing the great things you're doing. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, that was extremely informative. I think it really helps us understand the challenges that so many of our citizens are facing. And there's so many cases I've been aware of or involved in the last number of years. And it is heartbreaking because people are left in a very desperate situation. So the next item on our agenda, of course, is the possibility of anti-rent eviction bylaw, I guess, is the way to phrase it. We've had some insight and understanding today, and I just want to open it up for comments and questions and where we go from here.
It's a necessity, I think.
Is that okay?
Really, we need it. Look what we saw. That I don't know if that fee was a deterrent, but it certainly stopped. Well, slowed it down.
And I mean, there's also the counterbalance to it is that if we have this in place, there is also a risk that landlords do go underground and don't issue the 13s and try and squeeze people out.
So we have to get their rights out to them.
Yes. And the other piece, of course, is that then landlords may also resist doing improvements, and people are often in very difficult situations. So that's where our property standards bylaw can make an impact. And we've seen situations where once informed, or bylaw staff can go in and force the landlord to make necessary improvements if it's not considered a safe environment. So it's having all the pieces fit together perfectly or the best as possible to ensure that landlords comply and tenants. And in Smiths Falls, it's very close to half the population that rent their homes. So we're dealing with a very large segment of our population. Most of the units, we've had a lot of construction in recent years, but I would say we probably have 2,000 rental units in town that were here before 2018 that do have greater protections when it comes to rent controls. And so if people have the ability to stay where they are, then they have the better opportunity for some quality of life, more quality of life. Additional thoughts?
Does it apply
Janet?
for, like, they're mostly talking about rental units or renting a house. Does it also apply for renting a room in a house?
Unfortunately, no. So when you rent
There's
a
a
room,
lot of those as well.
yeah, when you rent a room in a house, you're not protected by the landlord and tenant board.
Okay.
So that does leave people more vulnerable. And I don't know if that's something that could be part of this, maybe a little bit more research, but because doesn't fall under provincial legislation, perhaps there is something we can do municipally which provides protection, so we can look at that as well.
That might be the gray zone that they move into. They'll stop renting houses and apartments and just rent rooms to get around. Because I just saw actually 2 weeks ago a room in Smiths Falls for $1,000 a month just for a room in a house. They're asking.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're going up.
Oh yeah.
And
The average seems about 700 or 800 for a room.
Yeah. And that was a
Do
few
apply
years
for
ago.
a lease or anything? Are they it's whatever they want to do.
it's
Okay.
as Lewis said, sort of that gray zone.
So yeah, maybe if there's some way we can roll that into,
Yeah,
I don't know.
just so we have the information.
Yeah.
And you're right, it does happen where you have someone who will buy a 3-bedroom unit and rent them out one unit.
$1,000 each in their mortgage and money in their pocket.
It's a pretty big issue in Kingston with a lot of kind of bad faith landlords will buy a house, rent it out to students for 5 years, let the property just degrade, and then sell it to someone who's just going to flip it and do it again.
I've got a daughter, second year of Queens, and that's 6 girls in one house. It's at $1,000 a month each. Peter?
So it is interesting that 10, 15 years ago, the issue that I saw firsthand was really deplorable rental units, and we would give anything to have the landlords invest in those units and fix them up. And that has happened. There's a lot less of those really. They're still around, but there's not as many as there used to be. So in a way, there's a positive landlords that have fixed up decent places and made them quite livable. But the pendulum is swung. I, as a municipal councillor, I have enough information and evidence, I believe, to support bringing forward a proposed bylaw to council. I think there's enough information there that if we were to draft something, knowing that the pushback, it's also probably easier to, in a complaint-driven bylaw, to a smaller town, you've got eyes, you know people. Like London, you can, in a way, it might be easier to manage here. I don't know that, but as I said, I've heard enough and know enough that I would be supportive of the committee recommending working on such a bylaw.
Excellent. Additional comments?
I would just say I think it's great. Like, I think we should move forward with it. Maybe controversial, but like the fee of $700 seems like a lot to me. And we are adding like more. At the end of the day, we want landlords to be fixing up the apartments, not adding more barriers to them and keeping the process like quite streamlined. I think is important, or else you are just going to see them go underground. So I would just say that's a high price point, especially if you're having to. And I think, you know, coming from my perspective, there are a lot of like mom and pop landlords here. You know, I've worked with, you know, triplex, and there was cockroaches, and I had youth, and, you know, one of the three, and, you know, the landlord wanted to help, but you know, it's a lot of money to get a whole triplex looked after for cockroaches and then to have to move them out. And, you know, and then if you're telling me you need like another fee on top of that, like that would be, I just know this particular landlord, like he was really keen to help and he bought them groceries, but we were able to partner with like the county to put everybody, all the tenants up in a hotel for a week while things were kind of dealt with. And, you know, to me, that was a really great success and collaboration of everybody coming together. And I wouldn't want to be adding more barriers preventing landlords to be able to do the mold, and because those are things that need to be done, right?
So I guess it's a suggestion of maybe a lower fee to make sure that it doesn't. force people
London's a
around.
lot bigger than us.
Sorry, Jen?
London is bigger than us as well, and
Yes.
so I think, yeah, lowering the fee for here would help it be like, okay, I can afford that, or per unit, like 600 or 700 per unit is a lot if you've got a 6-unit thing, and then you've got, you know,
Pay to relocate them and all
and
the
pay
things.
for the renovations, and it will, I think, deter people. But if we did a smaller amount per building rather than per, you know, if you're going to do a full one, maybe adjust it to that.
Or possibly a partially refundable fee, or like maybe it's a $500
Once it's
fee,
done,
you
the
get
money,
$250 back.
yeah, some comes back or whatever, yeah.
You could try to move the fees onto the back punitive side as well for those that just are doing bad faith, instead of making it half or whatever the old rent was, make it 3 years of whatever the new rent is and make the property essentially profitless for them. Being like, if you break the rules, you're just not going to make profit off this property.
Well, the Hamilton one with the daily fines,
Yeah.
as an example.
Yeah. I think we can adjust that for us. That would make it look good for the landlord and make them want to upgrade. And
Additional comments?
I also, sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
They also had the tenant information package. They
Yes.
talked about that, and I think that would be important. If you're issuing an M13, you're issuing it with this package.
Yeah.
Here are all your rights.
Very important.
That way they
That's
don't have to go.
required now.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
maybe a follow-up of some sort.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see again more education around it, because again, literacy is also
Communication.
an issue.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about hosting another tenant workshop, which we could probably do this fall.
Maybe even my TV would do a little episode on it, or something, a little short blurb for those that don't want to read a package this thick.
And the reality is there's so many people who aren't aware of their rights. I think I mentioned, and Linda made reference to it, the one we held a meeting last summer. I think we were 20 tenants who were facing eviction from the given in 13s days after the landlord took possession. And I say we were talking for over an hour before they really started to believe that they had rights, because the landlord had really suppressed their confidence in some ways. And when a landlord tells you what to do, so often people just simply do it, right? And, so as Linda mentioned, that it was a win. I mean, everybody was able to stay, even when the one did get to the board. When the landlord did pursue it, dropped it the day before the hearing. So that's success. Okay, so what I'll suggest is I'd like to bring this back, a draft bylaw for our next meeting. So with the committee support, maybe Carrie and Peter and I can work behind the scenes to draft a bylaw, and we'll bounce it off, or maybe include Linda in that conversation, and then bring it back for our next meeting for consideration. Okay. Thank you.
Might be tight for September 11th, but
That's our next meeting, yeah?
yeah.
Well, we'll push for it.
Okay. I mean, we're going to take the template that exists.
Yeah. So I wouldn't want it, because otherwise we're looking at, probably mid-October then, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving ahead to updates from July. Carrie.
So I just wanted to give everybody a quick update. There's not a heck of a lot, but there was some outstanding items from the last meeting. So we did form the 2 groups that we talked about, and that is further down in the agenda. So Louis, you're new to the group. So what we've done, we're starting 2 working groups within our committee to solely focus on food insecurity. and the other one to sit on, the other one is our twinning arrangement with Ukraine. So each member's kind of picked one or both, which working groups they'd like to sit on, and that group's really going to delve into the issue. So if you wanted, what I can do later today is we've sent council on recommendation from this group has done a food insecurity resolution, and I can send that to you so you can have a peek at it. And as well, the twinning arrangement information and stuff like the resolution council. And you can take a look at that and kind of decide where your heart leads you, what working group you want to sit on, and then I'll update the list.
Thank you so much.
I should have done that before. As I was saying it, I was like, darn it.
It's all good.
Sorry. So I will do that. As well, for the Old Home Week, we got the allyship pamphlets done. As you can see, Mitra very graciously got them for Old Home Week. I think we got a great price. We used impression printing, and the total used from that was $281. And that was for 500 two-sided color pamphlets and 25 posters right there. So that came out of our $5,000 budget, which I think is good bang for our buck. So, and there's some there left for other events that we can use. As well, the climate concierge program. So I've been working with Sadie and Susan after the fact, and got the flyer that they distributed last meeting, and we're going to circulate it on our social media forums as time permits. In between, we haven't done it yet just because we had Old Home Week and everything, and we didn't want to throw it in there. So Joanne from our communications has it, and she will put it out on Instagram, Facebook, and all of those feeds. And as well, Susan has committed to presenting to council on September the 28th at 5 p.m. And so if any of you want to, sorry, September 8th, I think, did I say 28th?
Yep.
Sorry, September 8th at 5 p.m. So if any of you wanted to come to that meeting, the council meeting, it's obviously open to the public, or we do live stream, but she'll be presenting that program to council at that time. And as well, just an update. So the presentation she did, I don't know what the update was, but she slightly amended the presentation. So that's the one I attached to the minutes from that meeting. So I'm not positive what the amendment was, but she asked that they be sent out. And just a heads up too, that in the last presentation, we've heard about London's rent-eviction bylaw, and the City of Toronto has one. But I do have Hamilton presenting as a delegation at our September a meeting. That was the earliest they could meet with us. So they are coming in September. Nice. So those are just some updates, some items that were lingering from our last meeting.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes,
Mitra?
it's not mentioned here, but I was wondering, I missed yesterday's get together for the public transit study group.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any good news out of that session? What happened there?
It was really, I popped in briefly. It was an open house. The consultants were here. There's some people who were here interacting. There was an opportunity to provide feedback.
Okay.
I don't know how many were here, but it's really an opportunity for the public to provide that feedback. There's 2 more this week, one in Crown Place, one in Perth. I'm not sure I think one's tonight somewhere. But I think there's also, we can check, but I think there's also an opportunity to comment online if you want to ask a comment to it.
Sure.
I'll find out. I'll send you the.
Thank you. I had saved it that I wanted to go, just hear what's going on and what is the next step for them. Is there any date that they are going to launch the program or not yet?
Well, this is really a feasibility study program stage.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be
they're
wrapped
not-
up this fall, and then it'll be coming to our council and county council for discussion.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
I have a quick question, sorry. With the Hamilton coming online next meeting, should we push the bylaw thing 1 extra month? Or should we just go ahead with?
I don't think we need to. If there's something that comes out of that delegation,
Just make an
we
amendment?
modify. But I think a lot of what we're going to have in our bylaw will be what's in Hamilton's right now.
Okay.
You're probably gonna love ours.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Moving forward, so the working groups. So, Carrie, everyone except Lewis probably had an opportunity to express the groups they would like to be part of. So within the food security group, I also want to ensure that we're bringing some outside stakeholders, which would include the food bank, Falls Food Hub. We've talked. I think Ashley is going to be joining the health unit, and I don't know if Danielle would be the most appropriate person from the health unit to. We can check on that.
Yeah, whoever our liaison with, they're still under,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll work on that.
Danielle will find out.
Okay.
So that we still do have a vacancy on this committee because we have a position open for the health unit
That's
rep,
right.
the one that Joanne, when she left. So it's still vacant,
Okay.
but they haven't, as Peter said, they haven't expressed who the replacement would be yet.
Got
But
it.
I can connect with Danielle and
Sure.
even if there's an interim arrangement or something.
That'd be fine. Thank you. I'd like to see someone from education sector as well, a principal possibly from maybe Duncan J or SFDCI,
She's
what
great.
they're experiencing.
She's wonderful.
And then I can connect with Erin Lee Markoff from Family Children's Services, Larynx Leeds Grenville. They also would have some great insights into the food security challenges that people are facing. Rudy Community Health Services I think would be appropriate. And of course, some people from here as well. So we don't want to be too big, and some of these people may only have involvement in this may only be a few meetings while we try to understand the landscape better and then try to strategize what we can do. But so I think the next step would be identifying who from this group is going to continue to be part of that subcommittee, and then who wants to be part of the twinning arrangement as well. So.
What did I say? Where am I?
So far on the food insecurity group, I have Diana, Linda Bradford, Janet, Katie Hoffman. In the twinning group, I have Linda, Katie Hoffman, and Mitra.
She's very active.
Well, why not?
So if you haven't given me your name yet and would like to sit on, you can let me know. But that's the list to date.
So I'll ask, I guess Linda and Katie especially, because you volunteer for both. Yeah, the time to be able to spend, because we'll probably end up having, at least a meeting a month, or maybe even more frequently. If that works for both of you. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
And Louis, you had a chance to think about where we'd like to be involved, or do you want to circle back?
I might circle back. I'll probably join the twinning, but the food insecurity one also is very interesting to me. But yeah, they're both very good, but I just don't know how much time I will have to do if I'm going to do both. I just don't know exactly what's involved.
I'll send you the material.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
And then I've got some other people in mind for the twinning. Where did I put it here? Pastor Paul Burley from in the church now. He's been in Ukraine quite frequently. He's got great connections in Ukraine.
Is that Pentecostal, Pastor Paul?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very nice man. Yeah.
Mark Payne is a gentleman who was on the Smith Falls Welcomes Ukraine committee, who's married to a Ukrainian from Lviv. He's there frequently. I met with him last week. He is part of an organization that is Maria Aid. Anyway, and they have they're working at the removal of landmines, IEDs in Ukraine, and working on training. He's former military and training Ukrainian soldiers how to do this safely. He brought me some patches as well, and they are the Canadian Ukraine Connections, Maria Aid, and Maria. It was the largest aircraft in the world that Ukraine had, and it was destroyed early in the conflict. Unfortunately, that's what it's named for. And 2 of the military units fighting for Ukraine. So I was proud to be able to receive these. But so he's maybe not from a committee standpoint, depends on timing, but he's certainly eager to help.
Where is he live? He's in
He's in Smith Falls.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and then I thought I'd reach out to some of the people who have moved to Smith Falls from Ukraine in the last few years and see if they'd like to be part of the group as well. So welcome to other suggestions, but I think we'd like to get some understanding of people have that experience, that understanding.
So are there going to be separate meetings for these two groups to
Yes.
get together and start from summer?
Yes, so I'd like to start, get started in September and try to work with everyone's schedules. Okay. Any other, so we'll get that populated and we'll do a survey to see about dates, what's available, and see where we can land on this. I'd like to get it started certainly in the next few weeks. Okay.
Are we going to have a presentation from Carl? Because he's been here with us since the beginning of the session.
Oh, Carl's here to watch.
Oh, okay, I see.
Well, Carl, the renovation.
Yeah.
If we do have a renovation, anti-renovation bylaw, Carl will be very involved with that. And probably involved in helping draft as well. Okay, moving ahead, Linda, farmers and fruit growers produce.
Yes, Mr. Aw and I were talking about food insecurity at the curling club, and he wondered if we had anything to do looking at the fruit people and the food people like bakers, Kilmarnock, to get their windfalls and their extra vegetables that they don't want. And I said, I'm not sure if we talked about that, but I would bring it up at the meeting. He thought it would be a good idea to contact them, and if they have anything that they don't, especially the windfalls of apples and whatever.
I think we've been in touch with Millers, I think.
Yeah. So,
and he mentioned Island Orchard. Where's Island Orchard?
Down near Easton's Corners,
Okay.
Ireland, yeah. What I suggest, let's bring that to the committee, the Food and Security Committee, because I do know that some of this stuff does go to the food bank, it gets redistributed now. But if Natalia from the food bank or a volunteer from the food bank is part of the committee, they would have an opportunity to provide that understanding. But yeah, I know some goes now, but I'm not sure where they're collecting it from.
Yes, okay.
There's also the people who have gardens around town, and I presume in many cases you probably give it to friends and neighbors because everyone seems to come right at the same time, and there's a surplus. But trying to reduce any food wasted and enhance and share certainly is an opportunity. Okay, so we'll discuss that further at the committee, then we get that together. Okay. And Peter, Climate Network Lanark, increased participation.
What Carrie referred to this, the Climate Action Network, they had a presentation from the concierge program. There's great resources available to people living in low income. Either you're a tenant or you own your own space where energy audits can be done. There's free grants, free resources that are available. The concierge program is simply there to help you connect with those. So they're trying to get a foothold in Smith Falls, and our group will try and organize a fall public meeting where they can come in and maybe we can get 15 or 20 people out to talk about what it would mean for them. Mostly when I've looked into it for renovations I've done, it is all over the map. It's very difficult. And this group will come in and just make it easy for you, tell you how to connect. And they'll follow you along until you actually, you don't have to commit to anything, just some time and understanding what it is. So we're going to try and get people to bring family and friends out to one meeting to learn. Anybody interested in the fall?
Question for Peter?
Is that the group that we had here last month?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
Soon.
Yeah.
It won't happen. They're, I would say, broadly spread out across Lanark. They don't have a good network in Smith Falls where we do.
Right.
And all I was offering is to try and
Bring it forward.
get our networks of people out to that.
But
Sounds
someone
perfect.
who commits is supposed to go to all the meetings, right, that they have.
Yeah, they cover Lanark County and Smith Falls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I signed up. Joined.
Very good.
Oh, did you guys?
Okay. Anything further?
Try it.
Nope. So we're scheduled for September 11th. We've got some work to do between now and then. Ask a motion for adjournment, moved by Linda, second by Janet, all in favor? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.